Amina sat quietly by the river, her heart a bundle of nerves and excitement. She was a woman of marriageable age, known throughout her village for her wisdom and beauty. Her heart raced as she recalled the prophecy given by the wise native doctor. "Your future husband's name will be Adeolu," he had said with a voice as deep as the earth. The name echoed in her mind like a drumbeat, each repetition bringing a new wave of curiosity and wonder. Who was this Adeolu, and where would she find him? Determined to know more, Amina sought advice from her elders and friends, who all speculated on what the prophecy could mean. Some believed it was a sign of a great destiny. Others thought it was a mere coincidence. But Amina felt it was more than just a name. It was a promise of a future she was yet to discover. A few weeks after the prophecy, Amina's life took an unexpected turn. While attending a village festival, she was introduced to a young, charming man named Adeolu. Her heart skipped a beat as she remembered the native doctor's words. They spent the evening talking and laughing, and Amina felt an instant connection. Could this be the Adeolu she was destined to marry? But fate had other plans. Over the next few days, Amina met 5 more men, each named Adeolu. The first was a farmer with hands as strong as oak. The second, a merchant with a smile that could light up a room. The third was a skilled hunter with eyes that pierced like an eagle's. The fourth Adeolu was a gentle teacher whose wisdom and kindness captivated her. The fifth was a musician whose songs touched her soul. And the sixth Adeolu was a blacksmith, rugged and strong, with a heart of gold. Amina felt as if she had stepped into a confusing web spun by the gods. How could there be 6 men, all named Adeolu, and each one seemed like a perfect match in his own way? Her mind whirled with possibilities and questions. Was the native doctor's prophecy a cruel joke, or a test of her discernment and patience? In her confusion, Amina decided to return to the native doctor for clarification. She journeyed back to his secluded hut on the edge of the village, her heart full of hope that he might help her unravel this mystery. However, upon reaching the hut, she was met with disappointment. A young boy, the native doctor's apprentice, greeted her with a solemn face and said, "The master has gone to see his children abroad. He does not know when he will return." Amina's heart sank. The realization hit her like a wave crashing against the shore. She was on her own. The guidance she sought was now beyond her reach, leaving her with only her instincts and the memory of the prophecy. She had to choose, but how could she choose when all 6 Adeolus seemed equally right and equally wrong? Determined not to let the prophecy or her confusion control her destiny, Amina resolved to take matters into her own hands. She decided to get to know each Adeolu better, to learn who they truly were, and to find the qualities that spoke to her heart. The journey would be long and perhaps painful, but Amina was ready to face it with courage and grace. Amina decided to start her journey with the first Adeolu she had met, the farmer. He was a hard-working man, with strong arms and a gentle smile. His hands were rough from tilling the land, but his touch was surprisingly tender. Amina admired his dedication to his craft. He took her on long walks through his fields, showing her the fruits of his labor with pride. During one of their walks, Adeolu spoke passionately about his dreams of expanding his farm and providing for a large family. Amina was touched by his vision and his unwavering commitment to his work. However, she also noticed a certain rigidity in his thinking. He was deeply rooted in his ways, much like the crops he tended. Amina wondered if he would be open to new ideas, or if he would expect her to fit neatly into his already planned life. Next, Amina spent time with the second Adeolu, the merchant. He was a charismatic man, always dressed in fine clothes, with a smile that could charm anyone. He took Amina to bustling markets, where he haggled with traders and showed her the art of negotiation. His intelligence and wit were apparent, and Amina enjoyed his lively conversations. He had a way of making her laugh, and she felt a lightness in his presence that was refreshing. One evening, while they were dining at a small inn, Adeolu spoke about his ambitions to expand his business beyond their village. He dreamed of trading goods across the seas and building a vast empire. Amina was impressed by his ambition but sensed a restlessness in him. His eyes often wandered to the horizon, as if he was always looking for the next big thing. Amina wondered if she could ever truly have his heart, or if he would always be chasing after more. Amina then turned her attention to the third Adeolu, the hunter. He was a man of few words, with sharp eyes that seemed to see into her soul. He took her on a hunt, guiding her through the dense forest with the ease of someone who had walked its paths many times before. Amina admired his strength and his deep connection to nature. There was something wild and untamed about him that she found intriguing. During their time together, Adeolu shared stories of his adventures in the wilderness, of nights spent under the stars, and encounters with dangerous animals. Amina was fascinated by his bravery and his love for the freedom of the wild. However, she also noticed a certain solitude in him, a loneliness that seemed to be a part of his very being. Amina wondered if she could ever be enough for a man who found his truest self in the silence of the forest. The fourth Adeolu was the teacher, a gentle and wise man who had a way of making everyone around him feel at ease. He spent his days teaching children in the village school, and Amina admired his patience and dedication. He often invited her to his classroom, where she watched him inspire young minds with stories and lessons that were as engaging as they were educational. One afternoon, after the children had left, Adeolu spoke to Amina about his passion for knowledge and his belief in the power of education. He dreamed of building a larger school and creating opportunities for all the children in the village to learn and grow. Amina was moved by his selflessness and his commitment to a cause greater than himself. However, she also sensed a certain idealism in him, a desire to change the world that sometimes blinded him to the realities of life. Amina wondered if he could balance his dreams with the practicalities of a shared life together. Amina's next focus was on the musician Adeolu, a man whose soul seemed to sing with every note he played. He was charming, with a voice that could soothe even the most troubled heart. He took Amina to his favorite spots by the river, where he played his flute as the sun set, casting golden hues across the water. Amina felt a deep connection to him, drawn by the music that seemed to speak directly to her soul. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Adeolu shared his love for music and his dream of traveling to distant lands to learn new songs and rhythms. Amina was captivated by his passion and the way his music seemed to capture the very essence of life. However, she also noticed a certain melancholy in his eyes, a sadness that came from a place she could not reach. Amina wondered if his heart was truly hers or if it belonged to the music that flowed through him like a river. Finally, Amina turned her attention to the last Adeolu, the blacksmith. He was a strong, muscular man with a heart as warm as the forge he worked at. He invited Amina to his workshop, where he showed her the art of shaping metal into beautiful, functional objects. Amina was impressed by his skill and the pride he took in his work. He was a man who valued strength and integrity, and Amina found herself drawn to his straightforward nature. One day, as they worked side by side, Adeolu spoke to her about his desire to build a life of stability and security. He wanted a partner who would stand by him, someone who valued hard work and resilience as much as he did. Amina admired his honesty and his dedication to building a solid foundation for his future. However, she also sensed a certain rigidity in him, a reluctance to change or adapt. Amina wondered if he would be open to the compromises and growth that a partnership required. Amina sat under the old baobab tree, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. Each Adeolu had something special to offer, but each also had qualities that made her pause. The farmer was steadfast, but perhaps too set in his ways. The merchant was ambitious, but might never settle down. The hunter was brave, but solitary. The teacher was wise, but perhaps too idealistic. The musician was soulful, but elusive, and the blacksmith was strong, but inflexible. How could she possibly choose? As she pondered her choices, Amina realized that the answer might not be about choosing the best qualities, but about finding the one whose spirit truly resonated with hers. She decided to spend more time with each Adeolu, focusing not on their surface traits, but on the deeper connection she felt with them. This was not just a journey to find her husband, but a journey to find herself as well. Amina decided to spend more time with the farmer Adeolu to understand his world better. She visited his farm again, this time rolling up her sleeves to help him with the harvest. As they worked side by side, Amina saw a different side of him. He was patient, teaching her the proper way to pick the fruits without damaging the plants. They laughed together as she fumbled, and for a moment, she felt a warmth that went beyond his rough exterior. That evening, as they sat down to a simple meal under the stars, Adeolu spoke more openly about his hopes and fears. He confessed that he worried about the future, about whether his farm could sustain a family, and whether he could be the kind of husband and father he wanted to be. Amina was touched by his vulnerability and began to see that his rigidity was not stubbornness, but a deep-seated fear of failing those he loved. She felt a connection to him, but still wondered if their lives could truly intertwine. Amina's next date was with the merchant Adeolu. He invited her to a dance at the village square, and Amina found herself swept up in his world of laughter and excitement. They danced under the moonlight, his laughter infectious as he spun her around. For a moment, Amina forgot all her worries and simply enjoyed the joy of the moment. After the dance, they sat by the fire, and Adeolu spoke about his desire to leave a legacy, to be remembered as more than just a trader. Amina admired his drive, but she also saw a hunger in him that seemed never to be satisfied. When he spoke about his plans, it was as if he was already living in the future, and Amina wondered if there was room in his life for a partner, or if he was destined to always be chasing the next dream. Amina decided to go on another hunt with the hunter Adeolu, hoping to understand him better. They moved silently through the forest, and Amina could feel the tension and focus in the air. She admired his skill and the way he seemed to become one with the forest. After the hunt, they sat by a small fire, and Adeolu finally opened up about his life. He spoke of his love for the hunt, not just as a necessity, but as a way of finding peace and clarity. He revealed a softer side, speaking of his fear of losing himself in solitude. Amina felt a kinship with him, understanding the need for both solitude and connection. Yet, she wondered if their lives could truly merge, or if he would always need the wild to feel whole. Amina spent more time with the teacher Adeolu, attending his classes and seeing firsthand the impact he had on the children. She admired his patience and the way he could make learning fun and engaging. One afternoon, after a particularly lively lesson, they walked together through the village, discussing their dreams for the future. Adeolu spoke passionately about his vision for education and how he wanted to change the world, one child at a time. Amina was moved by his idealism, but also concerned. She saw that his dreams were vast and his focus unwavering, and she wondered if there was room in his life for a partner, or if his mission would always come first. Amina decided to spend an evening with the musician Adeolu, drawn to the magic of his music. They sat by the river, and he played his flute as the sun dipped below the horizon. The music was hauntingly beautiful, and Amina felt tears in her eyes as the notes seemed to speak to her soul. After he finished playing, Adeolu spoke about his love for music and his desire to share it with the world. He spoke of places he wanted to visit and songs he wanted to learn. Amina felt a deep connection to his passion, but also a sadness. She realized that his heart was not his own. It belonged to the music that flowed through him. She wondered if she could ever be more than a fleeting note in his melody. Finally, Amina spent more time with the blacksmith Adeolu. She visited his forge again, watching him work with a focus and intensity that was almost mesmerizing. He invited her to help him with a small project, teaching her how to shape the metal with patience and care. As they worked, Adeolu spoke about his life, his desire for stability, and his need for a partner who would stand by him through thick and thin. Amina admired his strength and his commitment to building a solid life. However, she also saw that he was set in his ways, perhaps too much so. She wondered if he would ever be willing to grow and change with her, or if he would always expect her to fit into the life he had already built. Amina sat under the baobab tree again, reflecting on her time with each Adeolu. She had seen their strengths and their weaknesses, their hopes and their fears. Each one had something special to offer, but she was beginning to see which qualities truly resonated with her and which did not. She realized that the true Adeolu for her was not necessarily the one who was perfect, but the one who complemented her own spirit, who could grow with her, laugh with her, and face life's challenges by her side. She felt a growing clarity in her heart, a sense of knowing that went beyond the surface. It was time to make her choice, to trust her heart and the journey it had taken her on. The path was still unclear, but Amina knew that she was closer than ever to finding the real Adeolu, the one who is truly meant for her. Amina decided to spend another day with the farmer Adeolu, hoping to learn more about his life beyond the fields. As they harvested yams together under the scorching sun, Amina noticed a sadness in his eyes. She gently asked him about his family, hoping to understand him better. Adeolu hesitated at first, but then opened up about a deep pain he carried. His father had passed away when he was young, leaving him with the responsibility of the farm and his younger siblings. He had sacrificed his own dreams to keep the farm going and provide for his family. Amina was moved by his sense of duty and sacrifice, but she also saw the weight of unfulfilled dreams in his eyes. Later that evening, as they sat together by a small fire, Adeolu confided that he sometimes wondered what his life would have been like if he had chosen a different path. Amina felt a pang of sadness for him, realizing that his strength and dedication came with a cost. She admired his resilience, but also worried that his life was bound by responsibilities that left little room for change or new dreams. Curious to see how the merchant Adeolu would handle a challenge, Amina invited him to help her with a community project. They were tasked with organizing supplies for a village feast, and she watched how he interacted with the other villagers. To her surprise, he quickly took charge, using his negotiation skills to secure the best deals and ensure everything ran smoothly. However, as the day progressed, Amina noticed that Adeolu's charm also had a manipulative edge. He was more focused on winning people over and getting his way than on genuinely helping others. When a disagreement arose with another villager, he became defensive and impatient, revealing a more self-centered side. That evening, over dinner, Amina gently confronted Adeolu about what she had observed. He brushed off her concerns, insisting that his actions were necessary for success. Amina admired his confidence, but also saw a potential lack of empathy and an unwillingness to compromise. She wondered if this relationship would always feel like a negotiation, with each of them vying for control. Amina decided to spend another evening with the hunter Adeolu, hoping to see a different side of him. They sat by the fire after a long day in the forest, the crackling flames providing a comforting backdrop to their conversation. This time, she asked him about his solitude and whether he ever felt lonely out in the wilderness. To her surprise, Adeolu admitted that he often did. He spoke of nights when the silence was overwhelming, when he longed for companionship but was too proud to ask for it. Amina felt her heart soften toward him, seeing a vulnerability that contrasted sharply with his tough exterior. As he spoke, Amina realized that his solitude was a choice but also a shield. He had built walls around his heart to protect himself from the pain of loss and the vulnerability of love. Amina admired his independence and bravery, but she also wondered if he was capable of letting those walls down to let her in. Could she truly be a part of his life? Or would she always be on the outside looking in? Amina's time with the teacher Adeolu continued to reveal new depths to his character. One day, while they were out walking, they came across a group of children playing a game of hopscotch. The children invited them to join, and Adeolu immediately jumped in, laughing and playing with them as if he were one of them. Amina watched in admiration as Adeolu demonstrated humility and joy. He was not afraid to look silly or to be vulnerable in front of the children or her. Later, when they sat down to rest, Adeolu spoke about the importance of humility and always being willing to learn from others, regardless of their age or status. Amina felt a deep respect for him growing in her heart. She realized that his idealism was not just about changing the world, but also about changing himself and being open to growth. She appreciated his wisdom and humility, but wondered if his selflessness would ever leave room for their relationship to take priority. Could he balance his passion for teaching with the demands of a shared life? Amina decided to spend more time with the musician Adeolu, intrigued by his soulful nature. They spent a day together by the river, where he taught her a few simple melodies on his flute. Amina found herself laughing at her own clumsy attempts, and Adeolu's gentle encouragement made her feel at ease. As the sun began to set, Adeolu played a hauntingly beautiful melody that brought tears to Amina's eyes. When he finished, she asked him why his music always seemed to carry a note of sadness. Adeolu hesitated, but then confessed that he had once been deeply in love with a woman who had left him to pursue her own dreams abroad. His music was his way of coping with the loss and expressing the emotions he couldn't put into words. Amina felt a deep empathy for him, but also a worry. She realized that his music, while beautiful, was also a constant reminder of his past. She wondered if he would ever be able to fully open his heart to her, or if he would always be haunted by memories of lost love. Could she compete with a ghost from his past, or would she always be second to his first love? Amina spent more time with the blacksmith Adeolu, observing him at work in his forge. She was impressed by his strength and the skill with which he shaped metal, transforming raw materials into beautiful objects. There was something reassuring about his steady presence, a strength that seemed unshakable. One afternoon, as they sat together after a long day of work, Amina asked Adeolu about his dreams for the future. He spoke of building a home, having a family, and living a life of stability and security. Amina appreciated his straightforward nature and his desire for a grounded life, but she also sensed a certain inflexibility in his thinking. When she suggested they try something new, like attending a dance in the village, Adeolu hesitated. He admitted that he wasn't much for social gatherings and preferred the comfort of his routine. Amina wondered if his rigidity would leave little room for growth or spontaneity in their relationship. Could she be happy with a man who valued stability over change, or would she feel stifled by his unwillingness to step out of his comfort zone? Amina found herself at a crossroads, her feelings growing more complex with each passing day. Each Adeolu had qualities she admired and aspects that gave her pause. The farmer's dedication, the merchant's charm, the hunter's independence, the teacher's wisdom, the musician's passion, and the blacksmith's strength. All were admirable, but none seemed to fully align with what she sought in a life partner. She realized that the decision was not just about choosing a husband, but about choosing the kind of life she wanted to live. Amina knew she needed more time to reflect, and perhaps a sign to guide her. She decided to retreat to a quiet place, away from the village and the six Adeolus, to meditate and seek clarity from her heart. Amina journeyed to a secluded spot by a waterfall, a place she often visited when she needed to think. The sound of the rushing water calmed her mind, and she spent the day in quiet reflection, listening to her heart and the wisdom of the land. She thought about the native doctor's prophecy and what it might truly mean. As the sun set, Amina realized that the answer was not in the prophecy or in the names, but in her own heart. She needed to find the Adeolu who made her feel truly alive, who challenged her, supported her, and made her a better person. She knew now that love was not about perfection, but about finding the one who complemented her spirit and shared her vision for the future. A few days after her solitary retreat, Amina decided to give the farmer Adeolu another chance to surprise her. She invited him for a walk through his fields, hoping to see beyond the routine she had come to associate with him. As they walked, Adeolu showed her the different crops he was growing, explaining the care and attention each one required. Amina listened carefully, impressed by his knowledge and dedication. After their walk, they sat under a shady tree, and Adeolu pulled out a small, hand-carved wooden box. Inside was a simple necklace with a pendant shaped like a seed. "This is for you, Amina," Adeolu said shyly. "It's a seed that represents growth and the potential for new life. I know my life seems simple, but I believe that with the right person by my side, we can plant something beautiful together." Amina was touched by the gesture and the thoughtfulness behind it. She realized that beneath his stoic exterior, Adeolu had a deep appreciation for life's simpler pleasures. She admired his commitment to nurturing both the land and his relationships, but she also felt that his focus on the familiar and the routine might limit their potential for adventure and growth. She wondered if a life with him would be fulfilling enough for her spirited nature. Curious to delve deeper into the merchant Adeolu's personality, Amina asked him to accompany her to a neighboring village's market. As they traveled, Adeolu regaled her with tales of his adventures in faraway places and his knack for finding rare and valuable goods. Amina found herself captivated by his stories, enjoying the excitement that seemed to follow him wherever he went. At the market, Adeolu demonstrated his exceptional bargaining skills, securing items at prices that left Amina in awe. However, she also noticed how he sometimes stretched the truth or used flattery to get what he wanted. After a successful negotiation, Amina pulled him aside and asked, "Do you ever feel guilty for bending the truth to get your way?" Adeolu smiled charmingly, but his answer was evasive. "In business, one must be clever, Amina. It's all part of the game." Amina appreciated his intelligence and charm, but also felt a sense of unease. She wondered if his approach to life was too focused on the ends justifying the means. Could she trust him to be honest and transparent in their relationship, or would she always be wary of his cleverness and ambition? The more she thought about it, the more she questioned if she could build a future with someone whose moral compass seemed so flexible. Amina wanted to understand the hunter Adeolu better, so she asked if she could accompany him on a hunting trip. She wanted to see if there was more to him than his solitary nature suggested. He agreed, and early one morning, they set off into the dense forest. As they walked through the forest, Amina noticed how in tune Adeolu was with his surroundings. He moved silently, his eyes sharp and alert, his senses finely tuned to the slightest movements. Amina admired his connection with nature and his ability to survive in the wilderness, but she also felt a distance between them, a gap that his independence seemed to create. During a quiet moment by a stream, Amina asked him, "Do you ever think about sharing your life with someone, or are you content to be alone in the forest?" Adeolu looked thoughtful and finally replied, "I've grown accustomed to the solitude, Amina. It's where I feel most at peace. But sometimes I do wonder what it would be like to share this life with someone who understands it." Amina felt a mixture of hope and hesitation. She admired his self-reliance, but questioned whether his love for solitude would always take precedence over their relationship. Could she truly be a part of his world, or would she always feel like an outsider looking in? She realized that, while the wilderness called to her, she needed a partner who would prioritize their shared journey over his solitary pursuits. Amina continued her journey of discovery with the teacher Adeolu. One day, he invited her to a small gathering of friends where they would discuss books and ideas. Amina was intrigued and agreed to join him, eager to see this other side of him. At the gathering, Amina saw Adeolu in his element, passionately debating with his friends about philosophy, ethics, and the future of their village. She was struck by his depth of knowledge and his ability to listen and respect differing opinions. It was clear that he valued wisdom and learning, not just for himself, but as a gift to be shared with others. During a break, Amina asked him, "Adeolu, do you ever think about what you want for yourself, beyond your role as a teacher?" Adeolu smiled warmly. "I do, Amina. I want to build a life where learning is not just confined to a classroom, but where we learn from each other every day. I want to grow, not just as a teacher, but as a person, with someone who shares that vision." Amina felt a deep connection with him, sensing that he was someone who could balance his passion for teaching with a commitment to personal growth and partnership. She appreciated his humility and openness to learning, but she also wondered if his devotion to his ideals would sometimes overshadow their relationship. Could he truly make space for love, or would his vision for a better world always take precedence? Amina wanted to see another side of the musician Adeolu, so she invited him to join her at a community celebration. She was curious to see how he interacted in a more social setting, away from the solitude of his music. At the celebration, Adeolu played his flute, captivating everyone with his music. Amina noticed how the villagers were drawn to him, their faces lighting up with joy and emotion. After his performance, he mingled with the crowd, sharing stories and laughter. Amina watched closely, noting how comfortable he was in social settings, how he could switch from being a solitary artist to a charming conversationalist. She approached him and asked, "Do you ever think about what it would be like to have a family, to share your life with someone?" Adeolu looked thoughtful. I've always been afraid that my love for music would overshadow my ability to love another person fully. But being with you, Amina, I'm starting to see that perhaps my music doesn't have to be a barrier, but a bridge. Amina felt a surge of hope, but also a flicker of doubt. She admired his sensitivity and passion, but wondered if his emotions, so deeply tied to his art, would allow for a stable and consistent relationship. Could she build a future with someone whose heart was often lost in melodies, or would she always be competing with the music for his attention? Amina decided to spend another day with the blacksmith Adeolu, wanting to understand his seemingly rigid nature. She joined him at his forge, where he was working on a new project, a beautifully crafted iron gate for a nearby village. As she watched him work, she noticed a softness in his eyes, a gentleness that belied his rough exterior. After he finished, they sat down to rest, and Amina asked him, "Adeolu, what do you dream about? Beyond the forge, beyond the routine, what do you want for your life?" Adeolu paused, his eyes distant. "I dream of a home filled with warmth and laughter, of building something that lasts. I know I can seem set in my ways, but it's because I want to create a foundation that's strong and enduring, something that can withstand the tests of time." Amina felt a deep respect for him, seeing that his rigidity came from a desire to create a stable and loving environment. She appreciated his strength and commitment, but she also wondered if his focus on security would leave little room for spontaneity and adventure. Could she find happiness in a life that was steady, but perhaps a bit too predictable? Amina's heart was a whirlwind of emotions. Each Adeolu had shown her different aspects of themselves, revealing their hopes, dreams, and vulnerabilities. She felt a connection to each of them, but she also recognized that not all of those connections were meant to lead to a lifelong partnership. She found herself drawn to the teacher Adeolu's vision of a life of growth and mutual learning. His humility and willingness to learn from life resonated with her own values. Yet, she also felt a lingering doubt. Could he balance his passion for teaching with the demands of a shared life? Or would his ideals always come first? Amina knew she needed to confront these doubts and seek clarity in her heart. She decided to speak to the village elders, hoping their wisdom could help guide her decision. Amina visited the elders of the village, seeking their counsel on her dilemma. She explained her situation, sharing her experiences with each Adeolu and her struggle to choose the one who is truly right for her. The eldest, Mama Igioma, listened carefully before speaking. "Amina, love is not just about finding the right person, but about becoming the right person. You have seen the best and the worst in each of these men, but now you must look into your own heart. Ask yourself not just who you want to be with, but who you want to become with that person." Amina thanked the elders for their wisdom and left with a renewed sense of clarity. She realized that her decision was not just about choosing a partner, but about choosing the life she wanted to live and the person she wanted to become. Feeling uncertain about her choice, Amina decided to spend another day with the farmer Adeolu. She visited his farm again, this time hoping to see it from a different perspective. As they walked through the fields, Adeolu pointed out the new crops he had planted and explained the careful planning that went into each decision. Amina admired his dedication and patience, recognizing that his approach to farming was similar to how he approached life, with careful thought and a steady hand. As they rested under a large tree, Adeolu shared stories of his childhood, revealing a softer side that Amina hadn't seen before. He spoke of his dreams as a young boy, dreams that were filled with adventure and excitement before life's responsibilities had narrowed his path. "Adeolu, do you ever think about those dreams? The ones you had as a child?" Amina asked gently. He nodded, a wistful smile crossing his face. "I do, Amina. Sometimes I wonder what life would have been like if I had followed them. But I chose this path because it's stable, it's secure. I wanted to build something lasting." Amina could see the longing in his eyes, the unspoken desire for a life that might have been different. She realized that while Adeolu was content, there was a part of him that still yearned for more. This conversation made her ponder whether she could bring out that adventurous side in him, or if his cautious nature would always dominate. Amina decided to spend more time with the merchant Adeolu to see if there was more to him than his ambitious exterior. She invited him to a quiet dinner at her home, hoping for a deeper conversation away from the hustle and bustle of the markets. During dinner, they talked about their dreams for the future. Adeolu spoke passionately about his business and his desire to build an empire that would provide security and prestige. Amina listened carefully but pushed further, asking, "And what about your personal dreams, Adeolu? What do you want for yourself, beyond business and wealth?" For a moment, Adeolu seemed taken aback, as if he hadn't considered the question in a long time. He paused, then said softly, "I suppose I've always wanted someone who understands me, who can see past the ambition and see the person behind it. Someone who values the same things I do, but who also makes me want to be better." Amina saw a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes, a glimpse of the man behind the confident facade. She realized that while Adeolu was driven by ambition, he also craved connection and understanding. This moment made her question whether she could be the one to fulfill that need, or if his drive for success would always overshadow their relationship. Curious about the hunter Adeolu's solitary nature, Amina decided to spend a night in the forest with him. She wanted to understand what drew him to the wilderness and why he chose a life of solitude over companionship. As they sat by a campfire under the stars, Adeolu opened up about his love for the forest. "Out here, I feel free," he explained. "The silence, the space, the connection with nature, it's where I feel most alive." Amina listened, captivated by his passion. "But don't you ever feel lonely?" she asked gently. "Don't you miss having someone to share these moments with?" Adeolu was silent for a moment, staring into the fire. "I do sometimes," he admitted. "But I've been alone for so long. I don't know if I could change. I don't know if I could share this life with someone else." Amina understood his conflict. She admired his independence, but also recognized the loneliness that came with it. She wondered if he could ever truly open his heart to another person, or if his love for solitude would always keep him at a distance. She felt drawn to his strength and his connection with nature, but she also knew she needed more than just moments of connection. She needed a partner who would be present in her life consistently. Feeling a strong connection with the teacher Adeolu, Amina decided to spend more time with him to see how their visions for the future aligned. They took a walk through the village, discussing their hopes and dreams. "I see a future where we can learn from each other every day," Adeolu said, his eyes bright with enthusiasm. "Where we challenge each other to grow and become better versions of ourselves. I want to build a life that's not just about us, but about making a positive impact on those around us." Amina felt a deep resonance with his words. She had always dreamed of a life filled with purpose and meaning, and Adeolu's vision aligned with her own. "I feel the same way," she replied. "I want a partner who sees life as an adventure, who is willing to grow and learn together, to face challenges as a team." As they continued their walk, Amina realized that with Adeolu, she felt seen and understood in a way she hadn't with the others. He valued the same things she did, and she felt a sense of partnership and equality with him. But she also wondered if his idealism might sometimes make him overlook the practical realities of life. Could they balance their dreams with the everyday demands of a shared life? Determined to understand the musician Adeolu better, Amina asked him to play her a song that was close to his heart. He agreed and took her to a secluded spot by the river, where the sound of the water complemented his flute. As he played, Amina was struck by the depth of emotion in his music. It was as if he was pouring his soul into every note, revealing a part of himself that words could not express. When he finished, Amina felt a deep connection with him, a sense of shared understanding that went beyond words. "That was beautiful, Adeolu," she said softly. "I can see how much your music means to you, but I also wonder, is there room in your heart for anything else? For someone who might not always understand your music, but wants to be a part of your life?" Adeolu looked at her, his eyes filled with emotion. "My music is a part of me, Amina, but it's not all of me. I've always been afraid that if I let someone in, they might not understand. But with you, I feel like there's a chance to share both my music and my heart." Amina felt a surge of hope, but also a flicker of doubt. She admired his passion and sensitivity, but she also worried that his love for music might always come first. Could she truly be a part of his life? Or would she always feel like a secondary melody in his symphony? Amina decided to spend more time with the blacksmith Adeolu to see if there was more to him than his quiet strength. She visited him at his forge again, hoping to see a different side of him. As he worked, Amina noticed the precision and care he put into each piece he crafted. After he finished, they sat down for a meal, and Amina asked him about his hopes for the future. "I want to build a home that's strong and secure," Adeolu said quietly. "A place where we can build a family and grow old together. I know I can be set in my ways, but it's because I want something that lasts." Amina felt a deep respect for him, seeing that his strength came from a desire to create something enduring. She appreciated his commitment and dedication, but she also wondered if his focus on security might leave little room for change and growth. Could she find happiness in a life that was steady, but perhaps too predictable? Amina's heart was torn. Each Adeolu had shown her a different path, a different vision of what her life could be. She felt a connection with each of them, but she also recognized that not all of those connections were meant to lead to a lifelong partnership. She was drawn to the teacher Adeolu's vision of a life of growth and mutual learning, but she also felt a lingering doubt. Could he balance his passion for teaching with the demands of a shared life, or would his ideals always come first? Amina knew she needed to confront these doubts and seek clarity in her heart. She decided to take a journey to a distant village, hoping that time and distance would help her see things more clearly. Amina set out on her journey, traveling to a distant village where she hoped to find some peace and clarity. As she walked, she thought about each Adeolu and what they represented to her. She realized that her decision was not just about choosing a partner, but about choosing the life she wanted to live and the person she wanted to become. She spent a few days in the village, talking to the people there and listening to their stories. She learned about their hopes and dreams, their struggles and triumphs. Through their stories, Amina began to see her own path more clearly. She realized that she needed a partner who not only shared her vision for the future, but who also made her feel valued and understood. With a renewed sense of purpose, Amina returned to her village. She knew now what she needed to do. She felt a deep sense of peace, knowing that her choice was not just about finding the right Adeolu, but about finding herself. She decided to have conversation with each Adeolu, asking them a single question: what did they envision for their life with her? Each Adeolu gave their answers, revealing their true selves. The farmer spoke of a simple life, bound by tradition and routine. The merchant dreamed of adventures and achievements, always chasing the next horizon. The hunter envisioned a life of solitude, punctuated by moments of companionship. The teacher spoke of growth, both personal and shared, and a life dedicated to learning and teaching. The musician described a life filled with beauty and sorrow, where every emotion was felt deeply. The blacksmith spoke of a stable home, unchanging and secure. Amina listened carefully to each answer, feeling her heart guide her toward the one who spoke not just to her mind but to her soul. Amina decided to test her feelings one last time. She invited each Adeolu to a special dinner at her home, one by one, to see how they would interact in a different setting. She watched carefully, noticing how they treated her, how they spoke, and what their eyes said when words were not enough. With the farmer, she felt a sense of comfort and stability, but also a hint of monotony. With the merchant, there was excitement, but also a feeling of impermanence. The hunter brought a sense of adventure, but also solitude. The teacher offered wisdom and vision, but also a certain detachment. The musician gave her joy and sorrow in equal measure, while the blacksmith provided strength, but also a sense of rigidity. As the nights went on, Amina felt her heart leaning towards one Adeolu, a choice that surprised her as much as it felt right. She realized that love was not just about finding someone who was perfect, but finding someone who was perfect for her. On the final night, Amina made her choice. She invited the chosen Adeolu to meet her under the baobab tree, where her journey had begun. As they sat together under the stars, Amina felt a peace she had never known. She looked into his eyes and saw not just a reflection of herself, but a promise of a future filled with love, growth, and shared dreams. Adeolu, the teacher, smiled at her, his eyes filled with understanding and warmth. "I have always believed in destiny," he said softly, "but I believe in love even more. And I believe in us." Amina knew in her heart that she had found the true Adeolu, the one who was not only her match but her partner, her equal, and her love. Together, they would build a life of joy, learning, and endless possibilities. They got married in a beautiful ceremony filled with the songs of the village, the laughter of friends and family, and the blessings of the land. And they lived happily ever after, proving that true love is not just a matter of fate, but a journey of the heart.